Good afternoon, my wonderful History 30 students. This is your more than wonderful history teacher, Mr. May, on a afternoon here at the end of the week. Just commenting on a few things. We've done a lot of work in the last little while, and I'm glad to see people are getting things done. There's still a few people who are behind, but I'm hoping you'll catch up. We are slowly running out of time, so please. Make sure that you're looking at those assignments. I asked you to do that assignment on Laurier and his problems with Canada. No Prime Minister gets away without having difficulties with the country, and certainly Laurier is no exception. He has great difficulty with the Boer War. It for the first time really shows a split between Quebec and English Canada. He also tries to create this wonderful navy, and it should have been a good deal, and many people were upset at it. And Laurier ends up losing the election. It is one of the issues that loses him the election in 1911. The Alaska boundary dispute is a disaster. The British undercut us. And Laurier really is upset and starts the Department of External Affairs in 1909. And never again will allow Britain to make any decisions in terms of boundaries for Canada. I put up there also a really neat map. It shows immigration patterns to this province. And if your family has been in this area for a while, you can see where they possibly settled. If you go to the archives and you know the location of the homestead of the original homestead of your family who came to Saskatchewan, you can get a map of it and with your family name on it. Then I posted that assignment on the Vancouver riot and the Komagata-Maru. Unfortunately, in Canada, of course, we are not immune to racial tension at times. And this is one of those times in 1907 when this riot breaks out, and many people who are of Asian descent in Vancouver are attacked. An unjust riot, and fortunately it's stopped. But there are certainly tensions that go on for years in that part of the world. The Komagata-Maru, which ship arrives in Burrard Inlet, which you took a look at, I'm sure, in 1914. Approximately 400 Sikhs on board wanting to come to Canada to immigrate, to live. There had already been a large number of Sikhs who had arrived and were living in the lower mainland of British Columbia. And the government of Canada makes perhaps a very bad decision at that point. Okay, I've also posted the essay. There are 65 topics, I think, on that list, right at the bottom of the assignment page that you need to take a look at. You can pick one. I've set up some due dates for tentative thesis and rough draft of your proof and so on, and then the final copy. There's a due date there for that as well. Right. Then I posted that assignment dealing with Canada in World War I, and certainly it's an extremely important event in Canadian history. It changes this country radically. We participated in it wholeheartedly at the beginning of it. We have no choice. The British government makes the decision for us. It's the last time that ever happens. But when Britain declares war, Canada is at war. We are not prepared, but never fear. We as Canadians, we're basically peaceful people, but if you really want to rattle our chain, we'll come out fighting. And certainly the Canadian Army and Armed Forces by 1918 are a formidable force. 1915 at Ypres, the first gas attack where Canadians are put into the line, and unlike French colonial troops, do not run. They stand their position. Many young men are killed, but they hold the line and close the gap in the line with the British troops, and certainly win the recognition of the British High Command. The Battle of the Somme, a meat grinder. I sometimes wonder how General Haig, who was the Supreme Commander at that time, could sleep at night. It was a disaster. The Halifax explosion, the largest man-made explosion up to that point. Two ships collide in Halifax Harbor, and a huge explosion takes place. I listened to an interview with he was an elderly man in his 80s during the interview, but he had been a young 16-year-old boy who survived the blast in Halifax, and one of his jobs working with the Red Cross at that time was carrying buckets of eyeballs that had been surgically removed by surgeons who had come from Boston and the northern part of the United States to help out. And his job was to take these eyeballs and just dump them in the bay. Flying glass and splinters, it was the most common injury for people who survived the blast. You can take a look at some of the music that soldiers were singing. Great tunes, top 40 tunes of 1914 to 1918. Wonderful music, although you need to know the soldiers love to sing them, but they changed the words, and most of the words in the songs were obscenities, and we could not repeat most of those words. And it was all directed to their officers. They changed the words and used their officers and swore at the officers, and nevertheless, it was a good morale booster for most of the men. I also have asked you to take a look at the Winnipeg General Strike, which happens in 1919. Here you are. You've arrived back from the front. And you have been told in 1914 that if you go to the front and fight for Canada, that they will keep your job for you when you return. You return, and you're told that there is no job for you. And even if there is a job for you, you're going to be working at a much lower wage. In all over North America, many soldiers are upset. The Russian Revolution has just taken place. Lenin is very popular. The ideas of communism are extremely popular amongst the troops, and when you tell a soldier that he has no job and his wages are going to be very, very poor, they took things into their own hands, especially in Winnipeg. And Winnipeg is the test point in Canada for strikes and changes in the workplace. And so take a look at that assignment. You'll see that many of the things that these young men and women were fighting for during this strike in 1919, you have today. And it was because of their efforts that things eventually were changed after 1945. All right, I've also put up a clip, or not a clip, but some sites from CBC. Today is a very important day. It is actually May 8th, which is VE Day in history, which means Victory in Europe Day in 1945, the ending of the Second World War. And I put up a number of sites there for you to go and look at the celebrations that are going on to commemorate this particular event. It will be probably the last time they do it. And most of the clips that I have up there are from Holland, and the Dutch government is quite sincere in their thanks for the Canadian troops in 1945 who liberated the country, and are welcoming those veterans who are still alive back to parades all over Holland. So take a look at it. It's a very important time. Those individuals who participated in that conflict from 1939 to 1945, they are considered to be, by historians, the greatest generation, and probably rightly so. Okay, keep on working. We're coming to the end really quickly here. Ask me questions. I need to help some people out, and I'm willing to do that. So don't get lost, and don't give up. All right. So as they say, that's enough for me, and we'll see you online.